So in this video, we're going to be talking about a very interesting topic, and we're going to be adding to an existing design of the day design. So we had this design for our design of the day, which is our mom, two-color mom with pom-pom in the middle. And what we're going to add to this is the cheer part of this design. So this is what it looks like on the website. And we are going to be adding this cheer text. And we're going to be using just a couple of functions here inside CorelDRAW to be able to create this. Many of the techniques that we're going to be demonstrating here in CorelDRAW can be done in other Rhinestone software as well. So if you're using a different type of Rhinestone software, you can certainly take advantage of these techniques in your software most likely. So this is what we're going to create, and I'm going to show you how easy it is to do here in CorelDRAW. Now, first of all, if we understand a little bit about Rhinestone programs in general, is every Rhinestone program basically works the same way. You take a vector graphic, and the software will determine, based on the size of that vector graphic, how many stones will fit either within the vector graphic itself as a rhinestone fill or around the outline with a rhinestone outline. So what we're going to create in this video is we're going to create a series of lines that look very much like this. And you're going to see that in other videos that almost every single design at its core is going to look just like this at its core. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take these lines later on and show you how we can take these lines and convert it into an actual vector object like you see here. Now for our artwork, we have a very low resolution JPEG that we're going to be working off of, and we could possibly bring it into our Rhinestone program of choice, and most Rhinestone programs have some type of vectorizing capability to convert it into a vector format for us. But when you actually get into it, what you will find is most Rhinestone programs don't do a great job of converting to vector, and even what they do takes a fair bit of editing. And this, while it's a simple text, a logo, because of the way the logo is and the way we want this to be in a finished form, you're going to see, if you take the JPEG that we're going to provide you and try to bring it into your software and click a magic button to have it automatically do it, it's not going to do a great job without a fair bit of tweaking. And almost any Rhinestone design does require some tweaking. But the technique that we're going to be using is going to produce a great result in not a lot of time and not a lot of editing otherwise. And we're going to be showing you one feature here inside CorelDRAW that, to me, I don't know how anyone designs without it, because every single design I do, pretty much, I utilize this one feature, and you don't find it in almost any other Rhinestone design software out there. So with that said, let's import our graphic, our little bitmap. So we're going to hit File and Import, and we're going to import this cheer design right here. There it is, and you can see how tiny it is compared to the design of the day, which is our mom design here. It's very, very tiny. But you know what? That's okay. We don't need it to be very big. We just need it to be a fairly decent quality. Now, we could, if we wanted to, enlarge it here in CorelDRAW. That would be okay too. We're not going to gain any better quality bitmap, but it is a little bit bigger. It might be a little bit easier to work with for you. Now, once we get to this point, we could select our bitmap and choose this option right here. If you just follow all these tools all the way down to transparency, and we could give this a uniform transparency, and we can lighten this original design up. See how light it is? It just makes it a little bit easier to see when we place our lines on top of it, makes it a little bit easier to see. Now, once we've done that, then what we're going to want to do is we're going to lock that bitmap down. So we'll just right click on the bitmap and choose Lock Object, and now that bitmap is locked into place. We can't click it and move it accidentally. Now from here, we need to dive in and recreate this vector graphic, but doing so in a way with Rhinestone design in mind. And that's one of the key things, is how we're going to create these lines with the idea that we're going to be converting it into a Rhinestone design. Now there are basically two functions we're going to be using here in CorelDRAW to create our artwork. And that is our shape tool, which is the second tool down from the pick tool. And then down here, the fifth tool down, we're going to be using the 3-point curve tool. This is a great tool for the beginner CorelDRAW user because it's very, very easy to use. Doesn't take a lot of experience, and it's very easy to practice with, and practice. This is a great design to practice with because it's fairly easy. So let me just show you how this works. We're going to recreate this curve going right here. Okay, so we're just going to click on this end, and we're going to come over here and click on this end, and then we get this little springy action. So we can just move this wherever we want to line up to that curve. You see that right there? Now, the other thing I should point out, notice how this line that we just created is orange, and it's, has a thickness to it. If I were to have nothing selected in CorelDRAW, and I right-click on any one of these colors, right-click, that will define my outline color. So we right-click, defines outline, left-click, defines fill. And if you read the message here, changing outline properties when nothing is selected will modify the attributes used by tools when creating new objects. So what that means is if I draw a square, now my square has a blue outline as opposed to an orange one. And likewise, if I come in here and choose my pen tool, my outline pen tool, and choose hairline outline, when I draw a new object, I now get a hairline outline. Okay? So that's just kind of something to keep in mind. So for what I'm going to be doing, I want about an 8 pixel wide, and I want orange. And now every line that I create will be 8 pixels wide, and it will be orange. Now, I'm going to go back to my curve tool, and I'm going to start right here at this point. And when you're first using this tool, it's best if we do it in shorter segments. So we're going to just click, and then bring that curve right to where we want it, right along the existing one. Now, you'll notice that this curve is selected. In fact, if I right-click on it, you see it changes blue, right? Now, when I come up to an end like this, do you see that little arrow that points down right at the cursor? What that basically tells me is the next line segment I draw is going to be connected to the existing one. And there are certain cases where we're going to want to do that, and certain cases where we're not going to want to do that. And I'll point those out as we go along. But for this example, for this next part of the line segment, we want this to be one continuous line. So here we go. So we got our little down arrow, we click and drag, and we don't have to do a big long line. There we go. There's that piece. Down arrow, click and drag. Click. See, now we have that little line segment. And we'll come up and around. So we'll come up, drag it down. There we go. That up and around. So we just come here, come right here to there. That looks good. And then we'll come up. See, always that little down arrow, always connecting until I tell you not to, okay? And I'm going to explain why when we get to that point. So now we come around the bend, and we'll do a little line segment here. And there it comes around. And then see that little down arrow again? Just always keeping that in mind. We want that little down arrow showing up, because we want to be connecting and having one continuous line. So there's that little loop. And then we're going to come all the way up to this point right here. So there's that down arrow coming up to this point. And we're not going to come back around. Okay, we're just going to stop it right there. And that looks great. Okay, now we're going to do the inside part of the line, but we're going to do this little line segment right here. So we're just going to click and click and click. So we just did a little line segment there, and then we're going to pull up a line segment here. So we just click, and you can do little line segments till you get used to it. And just experiment with this tool. Trust me, it's super easy once you get used to it here. So we're just going to come around that corner there, and because there's really not much to the tool, there's only click, click, and click in the middle. Okay, and we can fine-tune this outline, so if you make a little mistake, don't sweat it, because we can fine-tune this when it's all said and done. Now for rhinestone designs, it's really not that critical to keep our lines nice and smooth. If you look here, let me see the tiny little point there. There's a couple, see this point right here, it's kind of a little sharp point. You know, it's okay to be a little squiggly. It doesn't have to be perfect when you're doing rhinestone designs. So you can just get it close. You know, when we're doing vinyl or screen printing, something like that, we want our lines nice and smooth and symmetrical. But for rhinestone designs, we don't have to be so particular. So you can kind of see what we're doing here. We're just clicking, and the more we do it, the braver we'll get. The longer line segments we'll do. Like this one here, we could just finish her off just like so. Okay, so there we have it. Now, what I want to show you here is this little curve segment is separate from these two. And when we're doing rhinestone designs, at every sharp point like that, it's preferred to have it separate. I'm going to show you why when we get to the rhinestone part of it, but just kind of keep that in mind, okay? So now for this next piece, we're going to do this letter R. But what we're going to do is we're going to come around and through. So let me show you how this works. Grab our 3-point tool, and we're just going to click and drag. And there is our first piece. And we're going to click and drag. That kind of gets our second piece. And then we're going to come over here, click and drag, and that's kind of our third piece for our letter R. Okay? And then we just jump right into our letter E. And so what we're going to do is we're going to come off of this outline of this top piece of the letter R. We're going to come off of that outline a little bit and begin our letter E. And you can see we're just doing little line segments, get it as close as we can. Does not need to be perfect. We can fine tune and edit if we should need to later. So there is the inside part of our E. Now we're going to do the outside part of our E. So right in here, follow that right along. We'll do a nice little line segment there. Sometimes when you're doing these shorter line segments, it's easier to get that curve just exactly perfect. It does take longer the more line segments we plot, but sometimes, especially when you're starting out, it's easier to manipulate. Okay, see? So that is our letter E. So we have the inside and outside of our letter E. And that looks pretty good. So what we're going to do here is we're going to select both of those parts of our letter E and just click and drag, right click to make a duplicate, and just hover over, and you can see now we have kind of a duplicate. But for our second part of our E, you can see it overlaps the first, and that we don't want. So we're just going to click, double click on that line with our shape tool. That will add a node, and then double click on the end node to trim it away. So double click on our line, that activates it, adds a node, and then we can double click on the end node and trim it back. Okay? And we're going to fine tune all this here in just a bit. Now here is our letter H. So go back to our 3-point tool, and we're going to start inside. I'll tell you what, let's start on the outside. Not quite to the outline, we'll just pull it right here. Okay, little tiny line segment to start with. And we'll get this really tight corner right there. And then we can come in here and finish up our letter H. And we're going to come right to this point, real sharp point. We're going to come right to that point right there. Now remember, I said at every sharp point, we deliberately want to start a new segment. If we were to start at this corner, you see that little down arrow? So the easiest way to stop that is just to switch to our pick tool and just click anywhere in our document. Now this line segment is not selected. So when I grab my 3-point tool and start from that endpoint again, you will see that this line segment is separate from that lower line segment. Okay, same thing here. We have a sharp corner. So what we can do is we can start at this corner and come over to here and have the same effect. See, that is still selected. You see that. But so what we're going to do is we're going to come down here and we're going to come all the way up to here. So now if I come all the way up to here right now, see what it does? It wants to connect it. So I'm going to start right here. Now this is selected. We'll connect it there, but it won't be connected there. So you just have to kind of get used to how this works. So now this line segment is separate from that one, and that's what we want. So that extra node that we added in here, we really didn't need that extra node in there. So we can just delete it. And that's how you kind of deal with those line segments when you don't want to connect them. So we're going to do this little line segment here. See? Nice sharp corner there. Same thing here. It wants to connect. You notice that? But we don't want to connect. So we'll do a little short segment, and then we'll come in here and we'll do a little segment there, and then we'll switch to our shape tool and delete that extra node in between that we really didn't need. Okay, another little line segment to go here. So we can start here, do that little line segment, and now I'm just going to switch, select nothing, go back to our 3-point tool again. So whatever you get used to using, just understand the differences there. All those sharp corners, remember we want to start a new line segment. Now this little inside part here, we'll go ahead and do same thing. So there's our first piece. We're going to switch to our pick tool, click in our document, that deselects, switch back to our 3-point tool, and do the exact same thing for the other side. Okay, but in doing that, we have two separate line segments, which is what we want when we're doing rhinestone design. Okay, and then we have our letter C to go here. So you can see this it actually took me about 10 minutes in real time when I'm not sitting here trying to really take my time, so you can see what I'm doing, and so you can understand it, and while I'm explaining myself. Otherwise, you'll be able to do this very, very quickly, because this tool is just, to me, it's just a great tool because it's so easy to use. We can just quickly plot down our outlines. Like I said, when we're doing rhinestone design, we could be really sloppy. You can be fairly sloppy and still get a great rhinestone design out of it. But these outlines, because my embroidery software actually works with CorelDRAW, the creative drawing software, works with CorelDRAW, where I can take a vector object and immediately convert it into an embroidery file. So these outlines I could actually convert and use for my embroidery machine as well. So for some of you who are just doing rhinestones, maybe that's not important to you, but for me, that's very important to have good quality vector artwork. Now, you're going to see it didn't take us very long, and you're going to see a great result here. Let me just copy this over, and there it is. So we're going to make it a black outline, and we're going to switch it to be a hairline outline. So we have basically no thickness, and there is our artwork ready for rhinestones. And this is going to be really exciting to show you how this works when we put our rhinestones on it. Now, once we have our outlines in place like we do, I could export this as an EPS file, and I could import this into any rhinestone software and automatically apply stones to it and get the exact same result that I'm going to get right here inside CorelDRAW. So, if you don't have a macro and you bought this expensive rhinestone software and you want to utilize it, but their drawing tools aren't as sophisticated as the CorelDRAW tools, fear not. Use CorelDRAW to create your basic artwork, and then if you need to take it into that expensive rhinestone software to convert it into a rhinestone template, by all means do so. I may even show you that here a little bit later, but what we need to do is grab our pom-pom mom design, make a duplicate of it, drag it over, and then take this cheer design. I'm going to right click and choose group. It groups all those individual lines so that I can move it as one, and I need to scale this and position it. You want to make sure that this is the proper size before we go adding rhinestones. So let's just kind of position this where we think we want it, and then once we have it where we want it, I would select the whole design and take a look at it. So right now it's 10 3/8. That's pretty decent size. That's about what I wanted. I could probably make this a little bit smaller. I was hoping for 10 inches, but I could maybe modify it just a little bit. So right now it's 9.9 by 6.3. That's a good size design. I can be happy with that. So just whatever you want for your cheer design. You know, if you want to rotate it a little bit, something like that, whatever you want to do, however you want it, really doesn't matter. Just make sure the size of your cheer design is what you want. Okay? So we're still at 9.9, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this R more over to the edge of my M. So if I just bring that, you can see that I'm just kind of making it a little bit bigger. You really probably don't want to go over 10 inches for a woman's garment, but 6 and 8 inches tall, that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly acceptable. We could slide this down a little bit. I'm going to just go over just a little bit and pull it down some. Something like that, okay? Whatever you want to do, doesn't really matter. Now, the fun part, let's add some rhinestones. So we're going to ungroup this whole cheer group and watch. Because of the way we created this artwork, and the more designs you do, the better that you're going to do at creating our basic artwork, which we've done here. We've created our basic artwork lines. So now it's time to stone. And because our lines, like for our letter H, are going through the C, see, we're going to get rhinestones all along this edge, and it's going to really look great. So let's go ahead and select all those objects. Let's come into Easy Stone here, and let's pick a rhinestone color. Let's do something deliberately different. Let's do Capri Blue for this example. We're going to do 3.2 for rhinestones, and on our Stone tab, we're going to choose the Add Stones function. And just that quick, look how quickly we have a bunch of rhinestones. And then here, we're going to click Add Stones, and here, we're going to click Add Stones, and right here, we're going to click Add Stones. So let's just start right here in the corner. How do we deal with this situation? So all of our stones right now have kind of this orange outline. So let's deal with that problem. Selecting everything, right-click on this little X for no outline properties. That will take care of that. So now you can see our cheer design really coming together. Now we have some collision issues, right? But we're going to fix all of that. And it's not going to take a lot of effort. Let's go over to the wireframe mode. And this, to me, is what makes Easy Stone so special, where it really stands out. In every other rhinestone software that I'm aware of, pretty much, we don't have this feature. In Easy Stone, we have a path, okay? Your rhinestone program is going to apply your stones to a path. Where Easy Stone differs from other rhinestone programs is if we modify the path, okay, we modify this path, the stones go with the path. The other thing that we're able to do, if we want to, is we can select our stones and increase the number of stones. Watch these stones gather up as I increase the number of stones. See how tight they're getting? Now they're going to start overlapping one another. And so to me, that's a real exciting feature here, is that we're able to add and subtract stones and get the exact density and spacing between stones we're looking for right along a path. So where we had stones colliding with one another, now we fixed that where we don't have stones colliding with one another. So now I can fine-tune this a little bit and get this as close as I want, right? So it'll cut nicely on my template. Now here, we don't have to concern ourselves with, but we do have stones overlapping the mom here. So what we're going to do is select this group of stones. See that? That whole group of stones is all connected together. So we're going to break that stone apart. And where we have stones that are going to overlap our mom design here, we're just going to get rid of those. Sometimes it's hard to determine which is which, but you just got to kind of take it a step at a time here. So we'll get rid of that one, we'll get rid of that one. See which one here, which one's which. I think that one and that one, and we'll get rid of one more there. So now we've made that gap for our mom text there. So I'm pretty happy with that. Now let's come up here. If you look at these stones, how they come up, looks pretty good right here, right? So we do need to make maybe a small adjustment because it's a little bit tight there. So we'll grab our shape edit tool, and because our stones follow our path, we can just pull, and if I actually broke those stones apart. Okay, so that's why they didn't move with that path. So we're going to have to move our interior path. So we'll go ahead and do that. And you can see we just made that small adjustment. So we added that extra little bit of space right there that we needed. So that will take care of that. Then we come up here, we just want to look at these corners a little bit. And we might want to adjust those as well too. So let's go ahead and pull that down a little bit. We can pull this down a little bit. Just want to make sure there's ample spacing there. Now at this corner here, these are a little tight, so we can lower those stone count a little bit and add a little bit of spacing between those stones if we want to. Now here where things are a little bit tight, we can just kind of nudge these stones just a little bit to take care of that situation, but that's pretty minor stuff. Now here we have stones kind of grouped up here, so let's just make those small edits. So we can pull this over just a little bit, add a little spacing there, maybe pull it over just a touch more. Down here, we'll pull this in a little bit, create a little spacing here, and then here we'll have to pull this down and back a little bit. We just want to make sure that our spacings between our stones here, where everything's coming together, that we have plenty of room. And then for this, we're just going to double click and create a node. And then I can double click on the end node to trim that line back. And then I'll just pull it back a little bit. And we can finesse this and get exactly the spacing we want right there between that. And we can kind of finesse how this is all going to come out. Sometimes when we have that little point there, I can just create a node on either side, just double clicking. And then when I click on that node, double click on it to delete it, it helps smooth that out a little bit. We'll do the same thing here just to smooth it out a little bit. Double click on it, smooths it right out. I do think this is a little bit dense of stones, so we'll select our stones and we'll hit our drop down arrow and it takes one stone away. Okay. Now where these stones are touching, same thing. We just click on our path, double click the end, trim it back. Click on our path, double click on the end node, trim it back. Then here, I'd like these to be a little bit closer together. So we'll pull that apart, something like so. See? And all those stones just kind of shift. I could also right click on the node and hit smooth. That helps sometimes, we'll smooth it out. Same thing down here, we can right click and choose smooth. That helps smooth it out as well. These stones coming around are perfectly good. Over here, we just need to select our path, double click to create a node, trim it. And this one we just need just a little bit of trimming. Give it a little bit extra room there, maybe a little bit more room here. See, just that little bit, all the stones will shift around. This we gotta pull that back a little bit, and that looks pretty good. And so we're just gonna right click and choose that smooth option. That looks pretty good. We're gonna right click and choose the smooth option, and that looks pretty good. So for our letter H, where it connects with our letter E, same kind of thing. We just need to pull it back a little bit, pull it back a little bit more. And for our outside one, going to do the same thing. That looks pretty good. You see we have a real tight stone here, but that's okay because we're going to choose those stones. So let's select those and choose break stones, and then I can finesse these two stones here to get the extra spacing that we need at that real tight corner. Right here, same kind of thing. Now these stones are already loose, so I do need to adjust these, so I'll hit break stones for that, and we can fine-tune exactly how this works. So we're going to pull this one over, we're going to pull this one down, create that spacing that we need. Right, we've got a stone on top of a stone there, but that's okay. We're going to fix all those stones on top of stone issues here momentarily. And here, what we're going to do something fun here. I just want to show you that you can do this. So this line segment, you can see where these stones are too close together at the ends, right? I'm actually just going to shrink it and pull it up. Now you say, well, that's not going to work very well because look at all of our stones have shrunk with our line, but that's okay because even if we have stones on a line, all I have to do is just click the Add Stones button again, and it will get rid of whatever's there and put in new stones, and which it did. And I think this is a little bit too loose of spacing, so we'll up one stone, and now maybe it's too tight a spacing, so I'll stretch it out, I'll make it a little bit bigger, and I'll choose that Add Stone function again, and I'm going to just pull it down a little bit, and we'll choose, let me just back up a little bit here. So we'll just shrink this down a little bit again, and again we'll choose that Add Stone function, and there, I think that's pretty decent how that is. So that looks pretty good. We took care of those collisions that we were having an issue with for our letter H, and then finally our letter C here. So we'll just click, trim it back. We need to trim it back a little bit more, and then down here we need to trim it. There we go. So I think that's pretty good. And then right here we have a collision happening, so we'll just pull that back a little bit, and there we have our finished cheer design. Let's go back to enhance mode here so we can see this a little bit better. This set of stones here, we're going to right click and choose no outline, and now you can see really how great this design really looks. All those little edits we did really turned out perfect, and it's going to look really great. So to finish this up, let's select our entire design and choose break stones. If we go to wireframe mode here, you're going to see all these paths for all of our letters. We need to get rid of those. And when we add stones to an object, the path that we added the stone to is called defined path. So what I can do here is I can just come in here to my design and select it and choose select defined path, and automatically all those paths that make up our word cheer I can extract from the design. You can see that there. Let's go back to the enhance mode here. Now the other thing I can do is I can select a small area or a very large area if I wanted to. But I'm going to just start with a small area and say, please look at all these stones and see if there are any stones on top of one another. So when I choose the check spacing, it'll check what I have selected and said, yes, I did find one stone on top of another. So we're going to delete it, and then we'll select the rest of our design. We already tested out our mom design. So we're going to choose that check spacing again, and we do have a progress bar down here at the bottom of Easy Stone, and it's going to check all those stones and make sure that there's none sitting on top of one another. Now we do have an option to also have it check the spacing between stones if we really wanted to, which is kind of a nice feature in certain circumstances when you want to make sure that the stones aren't too close together and cause problems when you go to cut your template. So we found 6 overlapping stones. So we'll go ahead and delete those. And then to finish this design off, because we want our cheer to be in crystal, but the reason that I decided to do this a little bit differently is you see right here around, I want to be able to adjust the word cheer around my mom design a little bit. So let me select one stone, come to my Selections tab and choose Mark Selected Objects. Then I'm going to select a bunch of objects, but all of my blue ones for sure, and say please extract the fill of the marked object. So when I hit Create Selection, it's going to create a selection of just the word cheer. And I'm going to right click and group it together. And then I can come in here and I can fine tune exactly where I want this word cheer to appear. See, so I can just move this, I can finesse, I can come way inside. However I want this word cheer to really be on top of my word mom, I have that option. And when I select all of the, you can see right now it's 10.4 inches wide, which I can live with that. So now that I have my word cheer exactly where I want it, I'm just going to select it and ungroup it. Now I have all of those circles that are Capri blue. You can see them over here, and they're Capri blue. I need to switch it out to crystal. So I hit crystal, come to my stone tab and choose rename and fill. And now you can see everything is now crystal. And one last little thing here, we're going to select all the entire design, come to the miscellaneous tab, and we're going to add a weed margin. So we're going to do a 25 pixel weed margin, so we choose add weed box. And now that is our finished design. So we can go ahead and export that as our EPS file and send it to our cutter for cutting. And you can see it really turned out really a great design. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it was a little bit more technical than some of our other videos, but the more knowledgeable we are as it relates to CorelDRAW, the easier it's going to be for us to create some great looking rhinestone designs. Thanks for watching.